My name is Matt Cooke. I'm Head of Partnerships and Training at the Google News Lab. I'm based in London. This is my first time in Dubai. It will not be my last. I will definitely come back. It's a great place and great to be here. We've got 20 minutes, so we've got a lot to go through as well. Let me take us through a couple of things and talk about Google and how we work with publishers around the world. And I think I have to start here really on our mission. This is Google's company mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it's because journalists have been doing this for a rather long time already. So there are already some things in common, we think, between the people who provide high quality information, that's you, and the platforms that make sure users around the world can access that. So for us, high quality journalism is the pinnacle of what we're looking for on search. And it's not just me saying it. This is Sundar Pichai, Google's CEO. You can read the words yourselves, but he says there he cares deeply about journalism, and it's the mission of publishers and journalists too. So right the way from my level all the way to the top of Google, high quality journalism is what we care about and what we want to support. And it's not just something we're talking about now. We have a long commitment to news. We know that we have been a partner to news publishers around the world for a number of years, going back some 15 years. And various times across recent years, we've launched different initiatives and we've worked to act on your feedback. There's still more to do, and there's more to come. Building an informed world will require news organizations and technology companies to work together. This moment we're in right now will require collaboration and discussion and feedback. And we get lots of feedback from newsrooms and journalists around the world, and we want to continue that. That's why, about a week or two ago, we launched something new, the Google News Initiative. Some of you will have heard Carlo talking about this yesterday. For the first time, this is our effort across the company to make sure that all of our efforts to work with journalists and publishers around the world are coordinated and much more easy and accessible for you and your newsrooms to access. We see this in three ways. Products, where we build products to help news organizations succeed on the web in a sustainable way to experiment and find new business models. Partnerships, where we work with other organizations around the world to tackle some of the big challenges around trust, around emerging technology. And programs, where we support journalism and think about the future. What are the emerging technology pieces that are coming, and what can we do to support your newsrooms to experiment and innovate in the right way? The team I'm on is down here, the News Lab. I'm going to talk a bit more about that specific team. We are a team working with journalists and entrepreneurs. Before joining Google 6 years ago, I was a journalist myself at the BBC for about 7 years. I left in 2011 and joined Google. And certainly as an individual, I've seen a huge cultural change at Google where people appreciate and want to work with high quality journalism to make sure there's a future for it. As a team of former journalists, we train your people in your newsrooms, and since 2015 we have been training 94,000 journalists in person, still more to do, and some of you will recognize particularly still more to do closer to this region. More to do, and more to say on that coming in a moment. One of the things we've made available throughout the world and in Arabic is our online training center. So if you are a manager of teams or you're someone that works to help journalists in your newsroom experiment with digital tools, then definitely take a look at this website, g.co/newstraining, and on there you'll find 55 different lessons, 9 courses, and as I said, available in English and Arabic for you to take a look at. Take a look and see what you think. What else do we do apart from training? Well, there are 4 areas: trust and misinformation, local news, inclusive journalism, and emerging technologies. How can we work with newsrooms, and how can we work with our own product teams around some of the challenges in this space? How can we make sure that newsrooms around the world, small, medium and international, have a sustainable model and can experiment? And also, how can we make sure that some of the opportunities of the internet are there for people who formerly didn't have a voice? How can we help those who want to join the conversation? What about data journalism? What about ML, AR, AI, all these acronyms? What do they mean? What do they mean for journalism? Let's experiment on this together. Let's take a quick look at each of those four. I want to show you a couple of the challenges that are out there. You'll know these challenges very well. They won't be too unfamiliar. Let's start with trust. According to recent research, media is distrusted in 82% of countries around the world. It will vary, of course, according to the Reuters Institute of Journalism study, but there are challenges here. They say in 2017, trust in media fell to an all-time low. There are tools that can help journalists in terms of verification. This is a very simple one, Google reverse image search. Next time you find an image online or you're sent something, drag this into Google reverse image search. Other alternative tools are also there. This will start to help your newsrooms think about trust, verification, and some of these challenges. What about the platforms? How can we make sure that we're doing a good job to make sure that the information that we're serving is as trusted as possible? Well, about 3 years ago, we worked with a university in California to launch something called the Trust Project. Essentially, in short, this shows how newsrooms are working together to think of the indicators of trust. Let's give the platforms a clue, a stronger piece of information about how to trust the content. So here are 8 indicators of trust that this organization have come up with. They range from giving your audience a clear idea about how this story was created, what your style of journalism is like in your newsroom, and where you're getting your sourcing from. Multiple lessons to be learned from the Trust Project. Lots of lessons also coming from collaboration. Firstdraftnews.org, another useful website to take a look at. This time we're seeing examples of newsrooms working together. It was difficult to imagine us working with another newsroom on something. We are seeing a cultural change in some countries around the world where newsrooms are used now to working together to tackle misinformation and support fact-checking. One really interesting example came from France, where during the French election, 37 different newsrooms worked together to fact-check everything that came through. Why? Well, because it saved time. It meant rather than 37 journalists checking one fact, one journalist could find out the detail and share it with others, leaving 36 people to go and do original journalism. So we are seeing some changes here in terms of how journalists are working together. If you want to know more about that experiment in France, then there's a full report online. It's called The Impact of Crosscheck on Journalists and the Audience. And if you're quick, you can see there's a short link to the research down there. Some journalists will want to know how can other newsrooms work together in a way that protects exclusive stories. This report will be a good starting point to take a look. How else are we working with publishers? A very quick run through. Let's talk about local for a moment. I, as a journalist, started my career thinking about local newsrooms. And of course, there's a big challenge there in certain countries around the world. In the US, for example, a report recently found from the Columbia School of Journalism, there are certain news deserts where now local newsrooms don't exist. What can be done to support local journalism, hyper-local journalism as well, and what are the new technologies that we can provide and make sure that this crucial part of the ecosystem is protected and strengthened? I'm not sure if Atlanta is one of those, but probably not, with CNN being based there. We are seeing a lot of efforts in local training as well. This is in Germany, and this is part of Code for Africa's training. We're making sure that the training that Google provides isn't just a 1 hour and then we go. It's an ongoing commitment. It's something where we want to make sure our training is tailored to you and your audiences and is as useful as possible. By the way, we don't just talk about Google. We know there are other technologies out there that your journalists need to know about, and so we help them there as well. Inclusive. This is a group of students who are visiting the UK, 110 countries represented there from the British Council. The efforts you're seeing on screen now talk about the next generation of journalists. How can we make sure that everyone has access to information and education? How can we make sure that everyone has access to the ethical learnings they need to know before they become a journalist? Lots of work going on in this area, but still more we can do. Emerging technologies, whether it's virtual reality, augmented reality, what are the opportunities there for journalists and for newsrooms? From my personal point of view, it needs to be always story first, technology second. Don't let the technology take over the story, but let's help it. Maybe we can find new audiences with some of these emerging technologies too. The challenge here is, how do you do this with limited resource and limited bandwidth? We know that, and we want to make sure that the tools we develop are as useful as possible, are as user-friendly as achievable, and don't cost too much either. Lots of opportunities there to experiment with some of the new emerging technologies, and some examples already. One example I want to show you comes from APAC, and we're going to go to the South China Morning Post. If you take anything away from today, I would love you to take a look at this article. It's called The Evolution of Hong Kong. It's a combination of beautiful imagery taken by the photojournalists at that news title. It's a combination of Google Earth Pro mapping technology, and it's a combination of 360-degree video all in one experience. By the way, of course, where does it work first? Mobile. The title here knows their audience, and they want to tell their audience about how this city has changed over recent decades. It's a beautiful piece that illustrates my point wonderfully. Story first, let the technology come second and help you get there. The Evolution of Hong Kong. Take a look. What about data journalism? Data journalism is something that lots of news organizations want to do, but here resource becomes an issue. We did find a lot of journalists were having to reinvent tools themselves. That takes time, it takes money, it takes resource. So we decided to work with an organization called Kiln in London, and they've launched a tool called Flourish. Flourish is a tool that basically provides templates for your journalists to use. So if a data journalist has spent some time coding an illustration like this globe you can see here, why can't it be used again? Why can't a journalist here in Dubai change the colors, change the titles, change the language, and add different data in to tell a very different story? Well, that's something we think should be there, and we've made that freely available. Flourish is a tool that you can register for as a journalist, and you can have access to a wide range of templates. And if you are a coder, if you are someone who's a developer, not me by the way, then you can also add your own templates yourself. Take a look, and there's plenty of opportunities there. What other opportunities are there for you as news organizations or you as brands to make sure that your content is verified and easily navigable on search? Let me introduce you to something new. This is Google Posting. In this case, your presence on Google, as we say, is fresher than ever. You can control the content that comes from your source, it's verified, and it will appear within search. If you want a way to brand your posts and make them discoverable on search, the quickest thing to do is to search for your newsroom, search for your brand, and head to the knowledge panel on the right-hand side. And from that point onwards, you should start to control your content. This is called Google Posting, And we've already seen, I'm pleased to say, some examples. This is from NBC. This is, of course, The Voice. Not a news organization in this case, but they're seeing here a way to control and post their content. This is brand new in MENA and is available for you to start using as of today. I started a moment ago by saying we've trained a lot of people, 94,000 in fact. But there's a bit of a gap. What more can we do to support journalists in this region? We're working with local teams here. We've taken a second look at that. We've also looked at some research. 77% of newsrooms in the Middle East and North Africa say they're concerned about how their journalists will continue to use digital technology and how they'll continue to learn about digital technology. So perhaps there is a need to provide additional training opportunities in this region. Well, this week I'm pleased to announce we're going to try and help that. Google News Initiative is partnering with IJNet Arabic to train 4,000 journalists across 6 MENA countries in the next 12 months. More details of this free training will be provided by IJNet, but I'll give you a quick summary. There will be free workshops and newsrooms, which will offer a range of Google tools and other non-Google tools. They'll be explained, they'll be given with case studies and examples, and there'll be workshops that you as journalists and you as newsrooms can request for free. This is an ongoing commitment. This is something we want newsrooms to take advantage of and to request, and the journalists will come to you and provide this training on our behalves. We hope that this is something which will start to roll out. We will see the first event that's part of this announcement here in Dubai in the next month, where we'll train hundreds of journalists, and from that point onwards we'll appoint ambassadors who will be then providing that training, as I said, on behalf of the Google News Initiative and IJNet. Finally, how else can you stay in touch with the Google News Lab and the Google News Initiative? Let me give you a couple of pointers. If you as journalists get stuck on any Google tool that you're using to create editorial content, then give us an email, newslabsupport@google.com. This is not a PR line. It's only for journalists to ask questions about the tools, I promise. Also, if you want to learn more about our tools, I started at the top by saying there's a new website. Take a look, g.co/newstraining. We're improving that site all the time, and we want to make sure it's as relevant for you as possible. We mentioned maps. If you have someone that you know would really appreciate going deep on mapping, then send them a link, bit.ly/geomedialab. And finally, we announced it about 2 weeks ago. If you want to learn much more about the other pillars of the GNI, then head to g.co/newsinitiative. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you again soon.